Only do something that's proven. Let's not do any. Let's not do any. You've got to remember, Star Wars came from nowhere. American Graffiti came from nowhere. There was nothing like it. Now, if you do anything that's not a sequel, or not a TV series, or it doesn't look like one, they won't do it.
Now, isn't that relevant to today's climate in Hollywood? I would like to mention, out of all that, that there's a stigma on both fantasy and realism. They won't do it, like he said. It needs to be, no, it has to have more fantasy. No, it needs to be more realistic. There's always this battle between the two, really, in my mind, and it seems to be happening amongst the people. No, I want more realism. No, I want it to be more fantasy. Like, I want to escape my world. I'm trying to establish the reality of the situation. Why fantasy is important, why realism is important. They're both important for your escape. My ultimate point is that one can't exist without the other.
I accepted to do the film because I love the idea of doing a fairy tale, doing something imaginative, something that children would love. Some people call it science fiction. I don't even consider it science fiction. I consider it a fairy tale.
Now, I disagree with him, but let's let him talk a little bit more on why he thinks this before I explain why I disagree.
In science fiction, you're very concerned about leaving a spaceship on a planet because there may not be oxygen, or the gravitational force is not the same as on Earth, or not what your body's adjusted to, and so you must take all that into consideration, or it's considered very poor science fiction.
Now, I disagree with him. I think just because they don't explain as much of that stuff as maybe some other movies might, some other science fiction, doesn't make this any less of a science fiction movie. They're clearly demonstrating a lot of that stuff. They just don't feel the need to explain it, which, in my opinion, is probably a better way of doing it. It makes the movie age slower because there is no official explanation. It leaves your imagination to make up the answers for you. Therefore, it never really feels unrealistic because your mind is making up whatever answer is satisfying to you.
It's fairy tale. That's the environment. That's the context. But you can literally do anything. And if I believe it while I'm doing it, the audience tends to believe it too. So that's a fairy tale.
I'll agree with him, yeah, it's a fairy tale, but it doesn't make it not a science fiction fairy tale. There's no reason that you shouldn't be able to classify this as a science fiction, is my point. There's absolutely no reason. I mean, yes, it doesn't exist in our real life universe. The Force does not exist as far as we're aware. And in this universe it does. So yeah, that's the only thing that's really far-fetched. But can you do anything in this universe? No, you can't do anything in this universe. The reason it's believable is because there are rules that we have followed through the series up until certain recent events.
I worked so long with the script that I know pretty much everything that's expected of the scene, and I just shoot the picture. And as I go along, I vary, I change my concept often because of what I shot before, or I learn something, or I learn that I don't need a certain scene, or I learn that I haven't shown a certain person before.
In all fairy tales, it's important that the characters come to life for the audience and that the people associate with them in real terms. Therefore, the characters that are created and the actors who play them have to appear to be real. Their relationships between the characters, their moral values, their ideas, why they do things, have to be real to the audience. That's the whole point of a fairy tale, that it has a moral to teach. It has to be subordinated in the story. It can't be obvious, but it is there. And the audience coming away from the story remembers certain things that happen that are very important. And that's what we're aiming for in all of the Star Wars films.